Hi everyone. Today is another big day. Today my boss, from the first time I heard about him, I was like, wow, when will I ever meet him? And then thank God I know people, know people. Finally, this day don't come. Welcome to Toride, boss.
Thank you. I don't know whether I'll be boss, but I'm glad for the. I'm happy to be here. I have followed you. I think you're doing an amazing job, and the little I can do is also support you in what you're doing.
That's true. I call you Prezi. So many people call you Prezi. When people call you Prezi, what comes to your mind?
Many things come to my mind. To me, it's an acknowledgement of what I've done for people. It's an acknowledgement of the fact that I had put my life, to defend people. An acknowledgement of the fact that I stand for justice, equity, and fairness. But, people might think that Prezi probably started with the Consortium. As a young boy, I remember I was president of a third division team, AS Boya. I was the president of the SOBA, Yaoundé University chapter in 1993. So when they used to organize interquartiers, I've always been president of Sampdoria Football Club. So this was when I was a very young boy, So, and then it continued with being the president of the Cameroon Anglophone Civil Society Consortium. But to me, it also gives me, it also makes me feel about how people think about me, but equally also the challenges and the fact that I have to always live up to expectation. So it's just like rights and obligations. It's also acknowledging the fact that you are president for the fact that you're fighting for us, and you must keep on fighting for us. So to me, it's not a bad thing, but I don't wear it on my face. I don't make it look at it as if it's something that to make you arrogant. It's more to be humble, because if you are a president, you are a servant.
That's true.
And like a servant leader that I am, you must always continue to serve the public.
Wow. Now, we'll go back for the beginning.
Okay.
Who be Agbor Balla? For that mommy we did for Mukundange, for that mommy we did for Batoke, that mommy we did for some deep village for inside that side for Kumba. Who be Agbor Balla?
Who be Agbor Balla? Interesting question, eh? Agbor Balla, the Bonnie Congo Felix Agbanyo. Agbanyo, for people that come on Manyo, I be twin. And my twin sister be die. So they become, I remain Manyi because of me. And I was born in Fiango, in Kumba. Most people don't know that, but I'm sure some of my Kumba friends know. But I grew for Boya, for Great Support. Great Support, we've been a place where the challenges were enormous. I always describe and say I grow for ghettos for Great Support, where it make me for work hard. My dad of blessed memory, Mr. Nkongho Brown, very famous person in his days, and I think I took a lot from him. Has always been somebody who was in the labor movement working for Sonel. And I know people till today who tell me, say, Papa Biwa like grammar. He was always speaking in English. Not very educated, not highly educated, certificated, let me put it like that. He was educated but not certificated. He was always speaking in English. I mean, the letters that he would write to me when I was in school, I treasured them. My mom was a housewife who was the one who used to teach me at home. And it be strange, I don't say put it right though. When I went to CBC Great Support as a class 1 child, the first term I was the first in my class. Then I take number 16 and number 17. I know if you forget, and then I wrote the common entrance in class 6. So Agbor Balla has always been an ambitious child. I wrote in class 6, I passed, but my parents insisted I should go to class 7. And I went to class 7, passed, and I went to SACE. And I did 4 years in SACE because I passed the O level in SACE. Then I went to high school in Kumba. It was the change be plenty. From my way, come on, young boy, come on boarding school. I go Kumba, I go to rent house. But it helped me also because Kumba exposed me to other friends like Pastor Armstrong Agbotabi, Nya William Tobunya, and a pharmacist. I came to know many people. Willie Nati of blessed memory, Babi Mandi. I came to know a lot of people because I went to, and other people in town in Kumba, which I think I grew up as a man when I went to high school in Kumba. I wrote the O-level in Lower State. I was dismissed in Kumba for subversive writing. They used to call that one lavoir, where you criticize authorities at that time. But I was innocent. But just that I be the work, I was an opposite boy, and way they think said I'd be writer. So that's how. But I passed and I went to Yaoundé University, where I read law. So I got the name Balla in high school, and my friend Armstrong Agbotabi and Lindolo. It was the days of Joe Balla. I used to be, in my young days, I used to be a very lively person. And so other thing there, my mother, they called me for house Agbor Show Boy. So till today, my sisters and my mother's friends, they still call me Agbor Show Boy. So I think that the show boy traces morphed into Joe Balla, the days of the big trousers. So that's how I got the name Balla. And now to me, it's become part of my identity. For university, I read law. Then after that, I went to the law school in Nigeria. I was called to the bar in December 1996. So it's been a long time, you know. Second class upper, first prize civil procedure. At that time, now only one law school within Nigeria, the one for Lagos. So when I came back to Cameroon, there be the delay. You know, the way the system is always slow, very slow. I had to travel abroad. So I went to Belgium, did a master's degree in private European international law. I was recruited as a researcher in the university. I started a PhD actually for like 3 or 4 years. Then I left and I moved to the US. I moved to the US where I went back to do another master's at Notre Dame, International Human Rights Law. It was in Notre Dame that I left and went back to the continent, had a job at the International Criminal Tribunal for Sierra Leone. I was there for 2.5 years, where we tried most of those who had committed atrocities in Sierra Leone. So the Revolutionary United Front, the Armed Forces Ruling Council, and the CDF, Civil Defense Forces. So just like a reflection of what's happening in Cameroon. From there, I moved to Afghanistan. I always like, you know, I like challenges, and I be that kind of person where I easily get tired of a particular job or a particular place. So I left there. I went to Afghanistan as a human rights officer. I was sent to Mazar in the north. Mazar are the birthplace of the famous Massoud, you know, who fought the Taliban and was killed by the Taliban. And when I was in Mazar, there was a time when our office was attacked by the Taliban. Unfortunately, I was out. I was on vacation in Belgium. We lost about 4 of our colleagues. And then from there, 3 years later, I left and I went to DRC. DRC, that's Democratic Republic of Congo. I was legal advisor to the UN mission, the United Nations Police. My late boss, General Wafi, may so rest in peace, who died during the COVID period. And I was in DRC. Then I came back to Afghanistan, but this time as legal officer. So the first time I was human rights. I came. So I was based in Kabul. I was in Kabul till 2013, 2014, and I felt that I had served my time abroad, and it was time that I had to go back to Cameroon. So now, I go back. I tendered my resignation, and then I went back to Cameroon. And Cameroon, I won the election as president of the Fako Lawyers Association, in the most vibrant sub-groupings of lawyers in the country. Ran for FECAFOOT. I was defeated twice with 1 vote as president of FECAFOOT. I don't want to get into the intricacies of the elections. And then afterwards, as president of the Fako Lawyers Association, we started the common law lawyers groupings, the Big Four, president of Kumba, Manyu, Nuela, that's the Northwest, and Fako. And that's how we moved to form the Cameroon Anglophone Civil Society Consortium, and where we call the strike action, you know, and the boycotts, and one thing led to the other, and found myself in jail. But I think that my identity is not just about being an activist. I think my identity is a very family-oriented person. Where my siblings will attest, you know. From the family of 8, I was the first person to travel out of Cameroon. And I made sure that by the time I went back, 6 of my siblings were abroad. They were settled and they were fine. So I have 2 daughters, you know. So, but somebody who really, I'm a very family-oriented person. And I care about my community. I care about my people. And I have my shortcomings as a human being. I'm a big soccer fan. I love football. But I'm religious, not very, very extremely religious. I have liberal political views. What else? I used to teach in the university. Before I like to say I was dismissed. They were calling my contract was terminated because I was dismissed for reasons that was more political, you know. Yeah. So what else about me? I think that's in a synopsis who I am.
Now, you as a humanitarian, you as that person, you work for the UN, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you as that person work for the UN. How would you, if you want to tell some mommy for Banga Bakundu, say na Agbor Balla this in less than 30 seconds, who you would wait till you tell them mommy?
I go say na Agbor Balla this way he like for help people whether they need, and he like for fight for people. That's what I would say.
Wonderful. Now, the consortium, you talked about the consortium already, and you were head of the consortium. It started with the consortium, and we are where we are today. Do you regret anything?
You see, the consortium was one of the best things that happened to Anglophone Cameroon. It was a meeting of people who had identical minds at that time. And the aim was to advocate for better treatment of Anglophones, you know, to fight against all forms of injustice, marginalization, oppression and suppression of the Anglophones as a people by the dominant Francophone majority. The consortium was not against Francophones. It wasn't out for Francophones. It was out for the institutions of the country that had put us in a disadvantageous position. And it was a peaceful movement, very non-violent, the Gandhi, Martin Luther King kind of movement. That was the philosophy behind the consortium. We call for boycotts. We call for boycotts of the courts, boycotts of the schools, just to draw the attention of the international community and also raise awareness in Cameroon on what was really going on. Because our brothers of the other side, some of them did not really understand what was going on. And we that was a platform for us to articulate our grievances and to try to call government's attention to what was going on. Negotiations failed, and it led to the arrest of the leaders of the consortium. Some went into exile, some people became radicalized, and some other people who had their own agenda, where the nature does not support the void. Where there is a void, some people will have to fill it. And the void was filled by people clamoring for separation or restoration, and that led from one thing led to the other, and there was an armed struggle, and we are where we are. Do I regret it? No, because we were non-violent, we were a peaceful movement, and we raised the profile of the Anglophones, and we raised awareness to what was going on.
Very true.
What is happening cannot be blamed on us, because at no point in time, you know, and I've said it severally, that I want somebody to show me any document, any communique, any interview that, as head of consortium, we talked about violence. I remember that one of I think the first strike action that we called, around 4 a.m., 5 a.m., we're going to Bamenda, to Manfe. I had picked a Yambe in Kumba, and we were in the car, and I did a video around 5 a.m. And when I urge everyone to stay at home, and that there should be no violence. I remember that I did another video making an allusion to the West Cameroon government that he had Francophone Anglophones there. There were Bassa's Anglophones and Bamileke Anglophones to just reassure people that we were not xenophobic and that we're non-violent. So, and I think even when we were arrested, they knew that at no point in time we had called for violence. We did not. I mean, myself, one thing I forgot to say, I'm a very peaceful person. For no reason would I want harm or evil to be done on anybody. For no reason would I hate a human being, you know, because I believe that love is very important, and the Almighty that created us, one thing, do unto others what you want others to do unto you. So I cannot be discriminatory because I don't want somebody to discriminate on me. And I believe that during our reign as head of the consortium, we were able to unite the people. We had people in the CPDM who did not see us as an enemy because we didn't target them. We were targeting issues. We were not fighting individuals, you know. I have friends I went to Sase who are Bamileke or Bassa Anglophones. How can I, in my dream, tell them they don't belong? You know, if you follow the history of the AAC1 that led to the creation of the SCNC, the Southern Cameroon National Council, it was a combination of people from the Southwest, the Northwest, and those of the 11 provinces. The Pazuma force were part of it, you know. So we had read the history of our people. Some of us as young boys served some of these people. We served the Chief Takus and then George Guanes. We carried books. We ran around them, the Batebisong. So we associated with the Boya Writers Club as young boys. So we knew, you know, we knew what the Travel Preparatoire was. We knew the mindset of the four songs at that time, the Enonchongs, the Elas, the guys of the Cameroon Anglophone movement. We knew, you understand. So to me, being the head of the consortium was just for me to some of my ideas. And let me tell you something. In 2000. I wrote a thesis. My master's thesis in Belgium was on the right of self-determination in international law. Do the Anglophones have a right to secede in international law? That was my thesis. And I zeroed in the fact that a federation would be the solution. I mean, this is 2000. In 1998, myself and some of the activists, we used to protest in the Belgian parliament and the Cameroonian embassy in Brussels, the EU Commission, you know, and there are videos that are on social media. I was still calling for a federation, that government should address the problems that the Anglophones face. So I think in my life in public service, in public office as an activist, I've been consistent on one thing, that I acknowledge the fact that we have problems, but I believe that a federation would be could solve the problem. And that is why that was what we were arguing at the consortium, the need for us to return to a federation to address the issues that we face as a people.
10 state or 2 state?
You see, I am a two-stater. I know this debate on federation is mixed. I am a two-stater. I believe in a two-state federation. Am I right? I might not necessarily be right. But that's my position, you know, because I look at in our unity in diversity, the 2-state federation, where the Southwest and the Northwest would be separate state in the 2-state. But I've met a lot of people who have told me that they don't believe that the 2-state flies in the face of logic. They are more of 10-stater, you know. And nothing is written on stone, because if you are in leadership position, or if you are an opinion leader, you should also be willing to make concession. And if the majority of the people think that a 10-state, you see, I think that we can go through phases. I believe that we can go through the phase. Like what happened in South Sudan. South Sudan went through a federation, then a referendum before independence. So we could still go through the phases. We could say, okay, fine. Balla, you are a 2-state, but we are not ready for a 2-state. So we would have a 10-state for 20 years. After the 20 years, we will move to a two-state for 20 or 30 years. And after that, if you people still think that you want to separate, we can do a referendum. So it ends up becoming a win-win situation. You understand? So because you also look at the geopolitics and understand how the world works. You don't just live from 0 to 100.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so that's what I would suggest. Once phase is 10 states, you know, that could be agreed in a proper dialogue. You know, let's say Truth and Reconciliation Commission and discussions with all other stakeholders in Cameroon, and then we agree on these phases, so that at the end of the, it might not be in my lifetime, it mustn't be in my lifetime, but it should be something that you've laid the foundation for subsequent generations to be able to know that some people fought for these, but they looked at the enabling environment, and it was a means also to reduce the number of people, the casualties, because it's not really worth it. You know, like Goodluck Jonathan said in Nigeria, staying in power or fighting is not worth the blood of Nigerians. To me, I don't think it's anything that people are fighting. It's not worth the blood of citizens. I don't want somebody to die for any reason to achieve whatever. I don't encourage that.
You talked about your arrest, and one thing with me I know growing up for Cameroon, I'll use the word Bia for when it comes to his government. When you lock person, you need to ever come out, except if you say maybe when you come out, you probably they can't die. Lapiro, people like this guy who was with CRTV. And if not, if they move you, it means you don't negotiate a deal with ye for either be lawyer or whatever. We know many other people that don't come out, and then it just be the lawyer and quiet. So many people want to know if you had a deal. Because don't win me, you die, you need to die, and you're looking strong and healthy and like.
No, I go jail as a very innocent person.
Okay.
I think Fontem also was extremely innocent, and I'm not too religious, but I think that God was with us. And if you ask people who are in jail, my spirit, and that's something that nobody can take away from me. I'm very strong. My head is very strong. My spirit is very strong. No matter what situation you put me, I smile. I used to get up in the morning and I wear my suit. You know, I just used to laugh. I used to just do the things. You know, I bought Scrabble. I bought football. I'll play Scrabble with Boko Haram guys, because I know that authoritarian regimes, they want to break you down. And I always say to myself that I can be arrested anytime, and it could not be my fault. But if I break down mentally, that's my fault. And so that's what happened. I did not break down. And, you know, I've read a lot of conspiracy theory. If people understand how it functions, no. There was nothing, you know. And don't forget that when we were arrested, I think the government probably underestimated the pressure that would come. They didn't know me a lot, you know. But I'd worked in the UN, okay? I went to school in this country, Notre Dame. I have friends. I was the vice president of the African Bar Association for Central Africa. So I cut across. And the Cameroonian diaspora also, they were putting a lot of pressure. You know, at that time also, the struggle was, we were united.
That's true.
The movement, everybody. Everybody, I saw Anglophones, whether they were CPDM, whether they were SDM, whether they were for everybody was united. Because at that time we had leadership was more coordinated, you know, and we had given people hope. And all of a sudden, bam, we were arrested. We were not involved in any financial scandal in the struggle. So a lot of people genuinely liked us. They protested, and that's something that will be eternally indebted to them. I've said it severally, always thank, and I want to seize this opportunity to say thank you to everybody who went out to clamor for our release. The diplomatic community also, they were very, my friends in my university, Notre Dame, was doing a wonderful job, you know. Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, you understand, the EU, the UN, everybody was putting pressure on government. And I think that, and government also, you know, they might mislead the head of state or whoever, but when they go and read, you know, I mean, what we were saying, and at that point in time, we had never incited violence. So they felt that, well, you know what, as a way also, they didn't release only us. They released Aya Paul also. They released other people, you understand. And I don't know any of the persons who were released who have died. And you know, there was a time when the Prime Minister told me that I'm more radical than prior to when I went to jail. The reports that we have published, my organization, Center for Human Rights and Democracy, has published since I left jail, has been more damaging to more than whatever I did before going to jail. So it's for you to judge. Unless people want you at every time just to be insulting. To be an activist, to be an advocate doesn't mean you should be always insulting. Okay, I come from I think my refined school of thought that I can disagree without necessarily being disagreeable. I can make a point without being insulting. That's why you see me on Facebook, on social media, everywhere I'm on TV. I'll make my point, but I don't insult people because I don't think that's not a hallmark of somebody who is supposed to be educated. And that is it. So, but in terms of activities, in terms of, I left jail, I've addressed the U.S. Congress, the Canadian House of Commons, the UK House of Lords, the Human Rights Council, the AU. Okay, on the same thing, I've gone to when I went to the Oslo Forum. At each point in time, I have called the attention of the international community on the gross, systematic and egregious human rights violations taking place in the country. When I came here in June to receive my award at the Kennedy Foundation, I said the same thing. So I still don't understand what people. I think most people wanted me to be the leader of a separatist movement, and I always say they shifted the post, because anybody who knows me knows that I'm not a separatist. I understand. There are things where I agree with my friends and the separatist movement, and I have friends there that we talk, we disagree in a respectful way. But in terms of no, nothing was done with anybody that I know. Nothing was done. I mean, that's why. You know, a lot is still, it took almost a year after we left jail for our accounts to be unblocked. The car that they arrested me in is still at the police station. That's what people don't know. I lost my job on the university. So these are things happening, you know, and that since I left jail, you know, things have still been, you know, there are times when they still call me. I receive threats from the military, you know, on my phone, you know, and my family also receives threats. So nothing. I can assure you. I've you know, Cameroon is a country where we're good at conspiracy theory. You understand? So, but for those who know me, you know that the things that I believe in, I would not give up. I will not negotiate for anything, because life is not just about some material things. Also, life is about a legacy for posterity. But I will do it on my own terms also. And whatever bullying, whatever insult, whatever shouting will not. I mean, I'm sure people who know me by now would have realized that no matter what you say, if I am conscious of what I'm doing, if I believe in what I'm doing, I would always stay the course.
What do you think is the future for Cameroon?
I am a very optimistic person by nature. So I see a future where from the ashes of this conflict, we'll come out stronger as a people, where there will be more respect for the Anglophones in this country, a country that will be more equitable, where justice and respect of human rights will be the rule and not the exception. I see us getting a federation someday in this country. It doesn't depend just on the current regime. They would have to, if the belief that this country will have to be together, then they'll have to make concessions. I foresee an Anglophone president, and I think, to me, that's my next campaign. There's a need also for an Anglophone to be president in this country. I don't care whichever party the Anglophone is coming from, but also I think that it's time we have an Anglophone president. But I see more integration in Cameroon between Francophones and Anglophones. I'm hopeful, because when I travel to the US, when I travel abroad, I see the way Cameroonian Americans are the kids, the kids that our kids, the kids of our of younger people like you, the way they interact, they look at Cameroon as one. They don't discriminate between a Francophone and an Anglophone. Very true. I see a better Cameroon, you know, for those who would come after us. So I'm optimistic.
Have you thought about being president?
You see, man is a political animal. So we all do politics in one way or the other. Whether you are involved, the problem is whether you're involved in partisan politics. You can be of use to your country and to humanity without necessarily being a president. We've had great people, you know, the Martin Luthers, they were never president, you know. The Mother Teresa, you understand? They have people like Bill Gates who are doing a wonderful job. Lots of people who have won the Nobel Prize. The Rockefellers, lots of people who have changed the face of humanity. Albert Einstein and the rest, you know, they were never president. The most important thing is to leave a legacy for posterity, leave your footprints on the sands of time, you know. And if you have the opportunity to serve in whatever capacity, serve with the fear of God, serve to the best of your ability and capability. It mustn't be being the president. I think the most important thing is to serve. And like Martin Luther used to say, whatever you do, if you want to be a cleaner, be the best cleaner, you know. Yes, I could be the president of my quartier. I could be a president of a small group, and then you serve there. So it's to me, it's not necessarily that you must be the president of a country to serve. But if you have the opportunity to be, so be it, and you serve also with the fear of God as your guiding principle.
Let's just assume between you and Samuel Eto'o, who do you think can make a better president for Cameroon?
Me and Samuel Eto'o, I don't think for the time being you can know who would be a better president. Samuel is doing a wonderful job as president of FECAFOOT. I think he has raised the profile of our football very high. It's not every decision that he makes that I agree with. There are a couple that had contested, had issued a statement on some of his appointments. But overall, I am an Eto'o fan, Eto'o person. I think he's doing a good job as FECAFOOT president. Running a country is totally different. And we should not jump to conclusions. And I don't think that I'm in a better position to judge whether myself Eto'o. We can make great presidents, okay? We are great Cameroonians that we are contributing to the welfare, to the national development of the country, and we are creating positive impact in our community. I think that's what is more important, not whether which of the two of us would be president. I think that's not. Look at the U.S. At every point in time, you have just one president, not so.
That's
but
true.
there are people who are doing an amazing job, just like what you're doing. So I look at the amazing job he's doing, and others also, others who are putting Cameroon on the map. The other artists, you know. Those in academia, I mean, those in politics. There are lots of people, those in civil society who are putting the country, you know, making us proud as Cameroonians. I think that's what we should focus on.
You're dressed in a freestyle.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. This is, you know, we have to be proud of where we are coming from. One of my young artists, and we are proud of who we are. I'm a proud African. I'm a proud Cameroonian. And this is from one of my junior brothers from Great Support. I have a sentimental attachment to Great Support. So, and I just like, well, and it's good. It's well done. So, I mean, I know most people say I hardly wear African wear, but this is good when it's well done. I am wearing it because I think it's good quality also.
What do you think is the role of every Cameroonian towards when it comes to when we think about the development or the progress or how we can move Cameroon forward?
It's an individual and collective responsibility. You know, I've moved beyond the mind, just the blame game. We blame, but we need to find a solution. We need to, there need to be a panacea for whatever illness the country is facing. And the state is a combination of us, the individuals, not so it's made up of the people, the land also. It's part of the state. So we, as citizens, have a role to play because there are certain things that people do. I mean, I live in Cameroon, and I'm like, no, you're not supposed to blame the government. It's you, that individual. If we assume our responsibilities as citizens, our rights and obligation, and the state also has to play its own part. You know, I'm not absolving the state from its responsibility. If we do our own part and the state does its own part, it would be wonderful. But I, as a citizen, I have my things that I have to do. And I think that if all of us have that philosophy that as citizens, we owe ourselves a duty, we owe a duty to the state to contribute to the well-being and welfare of the state, it will get better. We should rise above just always being negative, because to some of us, that's the only country we have. We don't have any other one. If it goes down, all of us go down. If the image of the country is brought into disrepute, it goes down. That is why we should equally, collectively, individually and collectively, draw the attention of the state when they are doing wrong things. That's why I don't support sycophancy in politics. You know, if there's embezzlement, if the government is doing something which is wrong, we call the government to order. Okay, but if they do something which is right, for example, I just read the other day that I think they're going to revamp the Chico Airport.
Yes.
It's a wonderful thing. I would congratulate whether it's the president or whoever who takes that decision. It's a good thing. But equally also, I just followed the appointment of is it the hydrocarbons or CACSC, where the board there was no Anglophone there. I condemn it also. Okay, so we should be honest enough to condemn the state or the leadership when they do wrong things. You know, when they rig elections, we have to condemn them. Okay, but when they do things which are right also, then we give them a pat on the back, like, congratulations for doing this. This is the step in the right direction. But we expect you to do more. And I think if we have that kind of positive way of looking at things, it will end up being a win-win situation.
I want you to look into this camera and say something to especially our Anglophone brothers, not because you are from the English-speaking part of the country, but because whatever is happening right there right now, it's not a good thing, and the country as a whole bleeds. So I want you to look into this camera and just say something
to my brothers and sisters of Anglophone extraction. We owe ourselves a duty to ensure that we find a solution, and it can be done if we individually and collectively work towards peace and justice in the country. I think all of us accept that what is happening is not the best, but we should work towards it. You know, we should encourage those who are against our kids to go to school to encourage the kids to go to school, because they are the future of the country. And a country where kids don't go to school will be a country that will not survive. It's like in the biblical times, the foundation was on sinking sand, and when the rains came falling, it had to crumble. We should shun hate speech and hatred and diatribe against each other. The Southwest and Northwest, we are one people. Our Bassa Anglophones, Bamileke Anglophones, they are part of us. We should learn to live with them. We cannot be criticizing the regime for being discriminatory and marginalizing us, and we are doing the same. We need to, my brothers and sisters in the diaspora also, you need to work towards us getting resolving the crisis. And please, the divisive tendencies, you should put an end to the divisive tendency, because it affects everybody back home. I believe that we would have a better Cameroon if all of us, Anglophones and Francophones, work together for our common good with mutual respect.
What is your definition of peace and justice?
Well, they always say peace is not the absence of war, but my definition of peace would be a situation where there's no conflict. I know people can say there's no conflict, but there's no peace. I mean, I've seen where there was no conflict. I've seen where there was conflict. I've worked in Sierra Leone. I've worked in the DRC. I've worked in Afghanistan. So I know when there's conflict and that it means, you know. And justice is also something which is very important, you know, and a fair society, a society where the rule of law is very important. But you cannot really have all that in an environment where it's not peaceful, you know. Where there's war, there are other things that you cannot be talking about it. I think that justice will thrive more in a peaceful environment. So when we have peace, when the situation is brought under control, you know, other things would fall in place. You understand? I mean, when there is peace, you will not be seeing people being kidnapped. You will not be seeing people being beheaded. Then now we can be clamoring for the trials that are free and fair. But when there is war, that's when jungle justice normally takes control over the population. So yes, I'm talking about, with regards to peace, the absence of conflict, the absence of armed conflict, because there's always conflict in each community. People have internal conflicts, but we're talking about the use of arm. I mean, and this is the armed conflict part of it that I'm talking about.
I don't know. I think you're fluent in French.
I try to. I'm not fluent. I try to speak French when it's necessary.
So what would be your message in French to the Cameroonian community?
Pour moi, je pense que le Cameroun, c'est un pays que nous tous, pour travailler pour bâtir un pays, on doit respecter les autres aussi. Et on doit travailler pour l'égalité et pour la justice au Cameroun. Mais aussi, si on ne travaille pas pour bâtir un pays respecté, ça va affecter nous tous. Et moi, je pense que c'est un pays avec beaucoup de potentiel, mais on ne peut pas s'en sortir pour avoir un pays en discrimination. Un pays qu'on pense que les francophones sont un pays que les francophones discriminent contre les anglophones et vice-versa. Parce que c'est Dieu qui a fait que les francophones et les anglophones restent dans un même pays. Et si on traite nos frères francophones et nos frères anglophones comme les frères aussi, on va s'en sortir, on va bâtir un grand pays et plusieurs personnes du monde en Afrique vont respecter le Cameroun. Et moi, je dis souvent à mes amis francophones aussi que il faut que les francophones soutiennent les anglophones. Il faut que aussi les francophones aident les frères et les sœurs aussi, qu'ils ont déplacés, qu'ils ont réfugiés aussi, et pour encourager le gouvernement aussi, pour chercher à trouver une solution. Mais mon dernier mot, c'est pour mes frères francophones aussi, il faut qu'on soutienne la démarche pour avoir un anglophone comme président du Cameroun. Moi, je pense que aussi, avec le support de la majorité francophone, on va avoir un président anglophone et ça va calmer beaucoup de choses et ça va changer plein de choses au Cameroun.
I think should be my last question. Why are you advocating for an Anglophone president?
Well, because it's also our time. The time is now to have an Anglophone president. We've had Mr. President Aijo, President Biya. And if we say these two people came together to form this country, it's high time. And don't forget, they came together as one and as equals. So I think it's time to have an Anglophone and to also change the constitution to have a rotational presidency between an Anglophone and a Francophone. So when an Anglophone is president, the prime minister or the vice president should be Francophone and vice versa. Yeah. So there should be rotational presidency. And it needs to be constitutionalized, included in the constitution, institutionalized. It should not just be like a convention like what is happening, the zoning system in Nigeria. And especially what we're going through also. I know it's not a problem of individual and post, but it will go a long way. You know, it would also, because there are Anglophones in Cameroon who don't have hope, who don't see themselves that no matter what they do, they cannot attain certain position. And it leads to frustration. But if just look like a black child growing in the US after Barack Obama, when you know that, okay, someday I could be president, you strive to be that. I think that would also help. It's also psychologically and emotionally important for us to have a president who is an Anglophone.
Prezi, anything the way you feel so we need to talk about that one or bring her up?
I don't think. I'm sure we'll have another interview sometime.
Probably a live interview, so we can have people ask questions.
Yes. That would be better because you can never exhaust all the questions.
That's true.
You know, you can never exhaust. We could talk about soccer from now till next.
I was going to ask that.
We could talk about politics. We could talk about many things. But someday we'll have another interview.
You'll be there at Arsenal fan.
Yes. I'm going to watch our game now.
And they never really win some major things. And like, how do you do for support them all these years?
Well, when you are in love, you are in love. I'm not a glory chaser.
And I feel like that same love transpired to your country, your community,
yes,
and everything.
That's why That's why I love Cameroon. I mean, my people who know me. I mean, my siblings used to tell me when I was working in the union, I was always in Cameroon. I started doing things. I started building my house when I was in Cameroon. I started building when I was abroad. I started building my office when I just believe that I was cut off to go back to my country and serve my country in whatever capacity. And I'm happy. I'm happy being there.
Thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.
I
welcome.
Now, for those who they know, say they always call you Prezi, at least when I don't listen and Onafi attest say, if you together for the wish one thing, you know, we no disclose that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Prezi, thank you very much.
Thank God.
Now, the small story I've got on today, I know it was interesting. If you have any concerns, any questions, comment section or inbox. If not any private conversation you want to have with him, let me know, and then we'll see how we, if you reach him. But we'll try to bring it back for here so we can do a live session where people can just ask their questions directly. I know crazy people indeed want to ask crazy questions, but no shock soon or get good.
Yes, and yes, I'll be ready to do a live with you anytime.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's more to it I've got for today.